You're listening to the A Bit From Within podcast with Felicia Marty. Sometimes we're so quick to give ourselves away because we feel like we want to please other people and we want to make them happy. But what would happen? Well, if you only gave what you could without damaging yourself, right? Like if you could have yourself seen by the people that you give yourself to, that those people have a healthy understanding of where you're at and what your needs are, and they're giving back to you as well. Hi there, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today for a new episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. I'm Felicia, your host for today. And every day, actually, this is my show. And what I love to do with A Bit From Within is just share a little bit of what I've been going through, a little peek into some moments in my life, and hope that sharing them makes you feel like you're not alone, or it resonates with even just a bit from within you too. And whatever that makes you feel, whether it's comforted or inspired or encouraged or whatever it is, that's what I'm hoping that it benefits you positively. So here we are today. I am recording this on Monday, November 15th, and it is 10 days until Thanksgiving. It's kind of crazy to be saying that because in so many ways, I feel like this year just began. It feels like the year started off really slow, and then once May hit, it's just been a whirlwind. And I can't even believe that it's been 6 months since May, that we are in the 11th month of the year, and that next week is Thanksgiving. I don't know about many of you, if you are Christmas people, like getting Christmas stuff out prior to Thanksgiving people. I feel like I try to let each year be a unique experience. I think 3 years ago, I had been given a lot of Christmas stuff from an old friend, and it was actually my first year, or like my first holiday season when I was working full time for myself, and so I had never really had a chance to spend that much time at home before, and I think that is part of what went into me like very early in November. Decorating full force, decorated our whole house. And by that, I mean, I am nothing compared to the people who really go all out. But for me, I went really all out because prior to that, I'd only ever really done like a Christmas tree, maybe a wreath. And that taught me a lot of lessons because by the time Christmas did come around, I started to feel kind of over it. And I thought to myself, okay, I don't want to do that again. But also sometimes, like, if you wait until December and you have the 25 days leading up to Christmas, it can feel a little too short. And the other thing that I really love about Christmas decor is that it really helps the transition into like the shorter days. So like having a lot of twinkle lights out, getting in your car, even if it sucks to drive somewhere in the dark, like if you can see a lot of Christmas lights or twinkle lights, it kind of is a little bit more hopeful and uplifting. So there is a lot that I like about the transition, but I am definitely not a November 1st at midnight start cracking out the Christmas tree kind of person. This year, I did want to do something a little bit different. One thing that I'm really trying to embrace about myself is that I like things to change. I don't like to do the same thing the same way every time. I am not really a traditionalist. I'm very open to, well, this year we did this together and this year let's do this together. Or, traditions in quotes can change. You don't have to stick with the exact same thing every time, especially if holding on to that thing is trying to repeat what you had once and it's not organically happening again. Now, I think that's how it's often worked for me in my life. I think there are probably plenty of you out there who are like, oh no, I love my Christmas traditions. Like every year we do this and we go see the zoo lights together, and we have hot chocolate and sing Christmas carols, and we go to this aunt's house for a party. Like, that's awesome. If it works, if you love it and it works for you, do it, go for it. I'm just saying that, like, I don't really have that. We have a very small handful of like must-have traditions. And that kind of goes into what I'm saying around like decorating and stuff too. Because for the last couple of years, like Dave and I were just talking about this yesterday, because we put up our Christmas tree yesterday. Well, we assembled the Christmas tree yesterday. I basically told him that this year I don't have time to do all of the decorating all at once. So we're just going to do a very slow rollout and hope that by the end of November, it's pretty much set for us to enjoy the month of December. So we assembled the Christmas tree. And this is an artificial tree that we've had for a couple years. Like, we bought it that Christmas I was just talking about in 2017, right? I think it was 2017. And then the following year, we were living in a rental unit, and we were like, let's like keep our bigger Christmas tree kind of tucked away, and let's go buy a smaller but real life Christmas tree. And that was a special tradition that year. And then when we moved into our house the following year, that's when we started pulling out our artificial tree again. And, you know, before Dave, I had never lived with a partner, so I never had to have the conversation around, like, how do we approach decorating, or like, what kind of Christmas decor do you like, and what kind of holiday stuff do you know, like, all of that was very new to me. And I had always kind of loved being kind of a single girl before Dave, like being like, if I want to do a pink Christmas tree, I can. If I want to do really fun girly ornaments, I can. And the first Christmas we were together, he was like, I want it to be very traditional. Like, I want red and green and white, and I want it to be very like traditional Christmas. And I was okay with that. I was also, I think I was like kind of caught off guard by that too, but I was also like, okay, can we do this? Like, will I like this? Let's try it. So we kind of tried it. And then the next year, when we had the real Christmas tree, we were like, well, let's just do something kind of totally different. Like, let's do all red and white. Like, let's really stick with a theme. So then we did that. And then since then, we've been sticking with like a little bit more of, I don't even know what to call it. Just like, we have our kind of mixture of different ornaments, and like, we didn't really stick with a color theme. Like, we just, I guess we kind of just did whatever. Like, whatever Christmas was related, we just put it up and we're like, yay, Christmas. Because honestly, the past couple years, we have not had a lot of time to think about that or spend much time on it. And this year, I also have not had much time to think about it. But when I have thought about it, I've thought, okay, what is going to bring me joy this holiday season? Like, what do I really need? I'm really trying to, in my personal life, take some time off and carve out space for some healing that I need, for some time, just time and space. I really feel like I need that right now. And so I've been really trying to work on like, what would bring me joy? And I had been like briefly, like before falling asleep at night, like on my phone scrolling. Such a bad habit, but I've been doing it. And I was on Pinterest, and I'm like, okay, like what kind of Christmas style do I want to do? Like, what do we need? What do we not need? What can we use of what we have? And I kept seeing all of these flocked Christmas trees, which I just learned that word this year. A flocked Christmas tree means that it has like the look of snow on it, like has like the white powder on it. And I thought, I really don't want to go buy a new Christmas tree, but can you do that to one you already have? And it turns out that you can. So a couple weeks ago, I was like, okay, I know I want that for this Christmas. So I ordered this stuff to flock our Christmas tree. And yesterday we brought the Christmas tree out, we assembled it, and last night I flocked it. flocked the Christmas tree. It's not hard. It took me like maybe 30 minutes with like setup to like finishing it. I feel like I might want to go back and touch up a couple more places because I did do it at night and I didn't have all of the natural light coming in so I could really see it well. And of course that did not happen today, but it is like non-toxic and it's really safe and it looks so beautiful and it feels so cool to take something like, I really was afraid when, you know, a couple Christmases ago and Dave was like, I like traditional and blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh no, like, am I really going to have to change how I like to do things? And what I've learned is that over time, like Dave and I are actually a lot more compatible with like being open to changing things from year to year. And he loves the flocked Christmas tree. I am sure that I asked him when we bought that Christmas tree, like what kind of tree he liked. And he was not okay with any of the snow on the Christmas tree. So I know he probably isn't listening to this, so I'll tell all of you. One thing I've learned about him is that what he means one year is not what he will like or mean the next year. He also changes his mind a lot, but don't ask him that in the moment because he will say that he'll never change his mind. So anyway, that was kind of what we did yesterday. And actually yesterday was... it was an interesting and nice day. This weekend on Saturday, I had the last wedding for 2021 for the year. I feel like I need to add in some like, yay, like sound effects, like clapping, because that is how it feels. Like it feels like this huge milestone. Like I feel like I could walk across the stage with people cheering me on. And I know that we still have a handful of weddings to get out to people and videos to put together. And there's still work that has to be done this year. But in general, I am the intense amount of weddings that we had playing catch up from 2020. We only have like 1 or 2 left in 2022. But it was a lot. Like this year was a lot. And crossing that milestone this weekend, man, it felt like a big deal to me. And Sunday when I woke up, I had actually carved out my schedule so that I didn't have anything on Sunday. And I had to be very intentional about saying to myself, like, okay, I'm not going to just run around and do things of which I have plenty to do. I'm going to let myself kind of move through the day. And I was really excited for this Christmas tree moment because for a person who likes to do, that was something that I could do that wasn't just cleaning my house or uploading my photos or like, you know, the things that I always end up doing as like fake self-care because I can't stop getting things done. So I was just kind of looking forward to that. Dave and I had a little bit of a date morning. We went and had coffee and then went and did some shopping and then kind of scouted out stores for Christmas stuff, but we didn't buy anything because I'm not ready to commit to anything yet. And then we pulled out the Christmas tree. And of course, I found myself getting really snippy with him during this process. And I don't want to like just vent about him because he's awesome. He's my favorite. I love him. But sometimes he can be like a little half in, half out. Like, ooh, like, what are we going to do? I'm going to help you put the Christmas tree up. I'm going to tell you where to put it. Like I wanted to do this in the garage and he was like, let's do it on the back porch. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we could do that. And then by the second we get it up, he's like, okay, I'm like ready to go in and do my own thing. And I'm like, we're still in the middle of this project. Like I thought you were doing this with me. And then I go back to the idea of like, I just need to do it by myself anyway. But I found myself getting really snippy with him and I started to pick a fight and he wasn't having it. And I was like trying to be a little, like self-reflective, like self-aware, like, why am I doing this? And I was like, I just realized I'm like, I am so tired. That is why I'm doing that. I am so tired. This was like 2:00 in the afternoon. So I did this rather sulkily, like kind of being dramatic, but I went upstairs, laid down in the bed, and I think that's when it really hit me how tired I was because I fell asleep and I never take naps. Like I very rarely take naps. And part of the reason that I don't take naps is because I am not a person who wakes up refreshed from a nap. Like maybe after like a 3 or 4 hour nap, but like I am not a fall asleep for a short amount of time. Like if I fall asleep for less than an hour, maybe even like 90 minutes, I am pretty mean when I wake up. And it was interesting because I have my Oura ring, which also can tell me like what phases of sleep that I get into even when I nap. And I found out later in the day that I fell into deep sleep right away, like right when I napped. And I don't know if that's a normal thing for most people. Like when I was researching it online, because of course when I woke up, I'm like Googling, why am I so grumpy after my nap? And a lot of science says like, hey, don't sleep for longer than an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, because then you'll be in deep sleep and it's much harder to come out of that. And I thought, well, that's interesting because I definitely feel like I fall into deep sleep very quickly right at the beginning of my sleep cycle. And I don't actually know if that's true, but that's what my Oura ring says. And all I know is that when I wake up, I'm just grumpy. I'm mean. I'm tired. I don't want to talk. I feel like I want to go back to bed, but I also can't go back to bed. And it like really hit me last night. In fact, it was funny because when I finally came downstairs after my nap, Dave was like, "What's wrong with you? Like, are you sick? Do you need something? Like, are you really sad?" And I'm like, I didn't say anything really. I was just like shaking my head because I'm like, I'm just nothing. Like, I'm exhausted. I'm still in like sleepy mode. And luckily he kind of treated me like a princess, just kind of waited on me hand and foot. And that kind of, after an hour or so of that I've kind of moved out of that funk and ended up flocking the Christmas tree. And we watched some Christmas movies and just had a day off. And it felt so nice, so needed. And it really made me realize I'm like, I need more of this in my life because I've been working like 80-hour weeks for a very long time. And that's too much for one person. And you guys know that I've been talking about this for a little while now, so I won't go on and on about that. But it felt nice to have that. It felt nice to close the chapter of doing weddings. And it feels nice to know that things can and will be changing. And I think that's honestly a perfect transition into the astro segment. You guys know I love astrology. If you don't know, now you know because I just told you. Love astrology and love using it as just a way to think about things a little differently, or just to kind of be like, I wonder if that is going on for me. And this week on Friday, we have a full moon coming. Our sun is in Taurus, so when the full moon happens, the moon is in whatever sign is opposite of where the sun is. So sun in Scorpio means a full moon in Taurus. And moon in Taurus is one I'm a little bit more familiar with because when I was born, the moon was in Taurus. And so I have that in my natal chart. And Taurus is a wonderful placement for so many of us because Taurus has to do with themes around finances, resources, pleasures, desires. And I thought this is kind of perfect heading into this week of Thanksgiving, that we have this focus on our resources. And what's kind of especially interesting about this full moon in particular is that this is one of our eclipses this year, and it's our first eclipse in this Taurus Scorpio axis we'll be kind of navigating over the next 18 months or so. And the thing is that like a full moon in general is a pretty powerful part of our lunar cycle. It's kind of this culmination where sometimes you'll see endings, sometimes you'll see kind of an apex of a problem you've been working on, or you'll solve it, or there's an achievement, or maybe you've just hit your limit at something and you're ready to let go. That's kind of the general themes of the full moon. And when there's a lunar eclipse with a full moon, it can be like 3 times as powerful as a full moon. In fact, some of it depends on the other placements and stuff, but this full moon in particular, astrologers are saying this is going to be an extremely powerful full moon. And with lunar eclipses, a lot of times you'll see this energy, the things that you're dealing with right now, play out over the course of the next 6 months. So, we don't usually set intentions necessarily during the full moon. But for this one, it might be time to think about the things that you're really ready to transform and change and let go of in your life. Maybe you're not as much thinking about the hows of what you're going to accomplish, but more so that if I let go of this, I can create space for these things. Or another way of looking at this would be really thinking about that Taurus energy around the resources, the abundance, the finances, the things. Really, it comes down to, what do you value? And so if you start to think right now, what do I value? Maybe you start to get very clear about what's in your life that you don't value that's holding you back, or where are you not being valued that you need to start standing up for yourself, and you're ready to let those pieces go, those pieces that kind of pull at your worthiness or your abundance, right? This can be really beautiful work for that in particular, to start that, that work and that change. And, it's like with anything else, we are only in control of ourselves. And so with anything, we can lean into the natural tendencies that we have, whether they hurt us or hurt others, or we can choose to be in self-control and choose a path that is grounded and self-aware and helps us grow. I think that's true at any time, any placement, full moon, new moon, eclipse, no eclipse, all of it. And with this one, or with this week in particular, a lot of astrologers are talking about all of the tension that's going to kind of be coming up through the water sign of Scorpio. And we've got some placements and some fire signs, and then we're going to be full moon in Taurus. Lots of energy that can create a lot of tension and frustration. And so I've been thinking about that in myself, and how important it is to slow down and make the choices that I want to make, instead of only allowing my impulses to dictate how I behave. And it can be really hard, right? These are not easy things, but it's kind of are you going to choose to be in the resistance, or are you going to choose to be in the flow? And if you're not in the flow, what can you do to get yourself there? And, even something you want to let go of, maybe it's the bad tendencies or the bad behaviors, the behaviors that hold you back. Maybe that's what you're ready to be liberated from. So there is lots of unique energy right now to be aware of, to play with. I'm going to be putting out a full moon guide this week. So if you're a member of the Patreon page, you get that delivered right to your inbox. If not, you can check out my website, abitfromwithin.com, and download it there for free. You can just search the monthly full moon guide. And if you ever downloaded it and it's not the right one, just shoot me an email, because I can totally forward you the right one. In full transparency, sometimes with everything else I have going on, I forget to upload the new one to the website. So I try to email the right one back when I see that one's been downloaded. But if you ever receive it and it's not the right one, just let me know, because I'm a human who's kind of chaotically bumping through things, and I'm a team of one with this project. I don't have somebody who helps me make sure I'm on top of those things. So thank you for your patience with that and your grace. And keep your eyes open for that, because I think this is a really cool one, cool energy, lots going on that doesn't have to be a bad thing. And speaking of which, just talking about things changing and talking about the holidays, I feel like this is a really important time to really start thinking about how you want to move through the next 6-7 weeks, like from now until Christmas. In fact, I like to kind of take inventory at this time to figure out how I'm going to pace myself through what's ahead. I know for some people, and I'm thinking specifically prior to 2020, people were going to holiday parties and work parties and friend parties and their high school friend party and then this party and then this family, but on this side of the family. And sometimes you can feel kind of swept away in like gift giving and obligations and going through the motions. And that kind of has always felt like the opposite of what this time of year is supposed to be, right? We're supposed to be moving towards winter, moving towards a place of reflection, moving towards a place of quieting down, of looking within, of looking for the light, and not just the twinkle lights that we put on our Christmas trees, but the light that comes into the world, like our connection to the divine and to our spirituality. And I think while some people do have ways of staying very focused on all of that and the religions that they practice, I think no matter what, there can be a lot of energies that pull on us this time of year. And it's really hard because I don't think anybody likes to come at anything from a place of obligation, right? Like when we are buying things because we feel like we have to, or we're attending a family gathering because we feel like we have to, and not because we have that feeling from within around, I can't wait to spend time with these people, or I'm so excited to share this thing with this person. It can really drain the joy out of it. It can actually leave you feeling emptier. And I was thinking about this over the past couple days specifically because for the very first time I heard, because I listened to it on YouTube, but I heard the book, The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. And I'd never grow up like hearing that book, so it wasn't a part of my like foundation. So when I had first actually like heard this version, I heard it at the same time as I listened to this version that a guy named Thomas Payne, he wrote an alternative ending to The Giving Tree. And his version is called The Tree Who Set Healthy Boundaries. And it was interesting because, of course, I thought of the giving tree in contrast to this tree that set healthy boundaries. And I think there's probably a case for you to not do that and let the giving tree be what it is. But what I thought was very interesting from this take on the tree who set healthy boundaries was this idea of it's so beautifully and clearly being illustrated that if you only do what other people ask of you, you can quickly get to a place where you literally have nothing else to give. And, if you have a moment after this episode, or if you feel like pausing this and coming back to it and just checking out this tree that set healthy boundaries, you can listen to it on YouTube. It's not a long read, but the part specifically where the tree sets a healthy boundary is basically when the little boy who's turned into a man continues to come back to the tree, who the tree loves this boy very much, would do anything for this boy. But the boy wants more and more from the tree. And the tree finally says, no. Like, I know how this goes. I've seen this happen to other trees. Like, you start with my apples, you take those, it's not enough. Then you take my branches, and then eventually you take my trunk, and I turn into a sad little stump. And I don't want that for myself. And so I'm not going to let you do that to me. And, the tree also says, like, you only come here when you want something, and that's not a way to treat somebody. So treating this or teaching this boy empathy, and the boy kind of learns his lesson and has this gut check moment and realizes that he needs to interact differently with this tree. And they both go on to have a better relationship with each other, and together they started this bakery, and they have the ability to create this really amazing life that they get to grow old and enjoy one another as they are. And there's a moment where the tree kind of says, like, I love this boy. I would have done anything. Like when he wanted to, need a house and wanted to, I could have given myself and had him cut me down and build a house and that would have been fine. I would have given that. But if I did that, then we wouldn't have had all of this. Like he wouldn't have become more successful, and we wouldn't have had all of the memories and the experiences that they ended up having for so much longer. And that's the part that really stuck with me. I feel myself getting a little bit teary-eyed here. Bear with me. Just this idea of like, sometimes we're so quick to give ourselves away because we feel like we want to please other people and we want to make them happy. And so if we just do what they want, then they'll be happy. And some of us, many of us, really have this genuine thing inside of us that are like, no, I really love this person so much. I don't mind giving myself. I don't mind sacrificing this. But what would happen if you only gave what you really felt you could? Or if you only gave what you could without damaging yourself, right? Like if you could have yourself seen by the people that you give yourself to, that those people have a healthy understanding of where you're at and what your needs are, and they're giving back to you as well. Could you go on and have way better experiences than just that single moment of avoiding conflict by saying, sure, just take this. Sure, just have this. Right? Like, I think the first thing that I go to is like the idea of like a mother and how a mother would give her children anything. She would do anything for them. And maybe that's true of both parents, but I'm just thinking of a mother in particular. And yet sometimes kids can become kind of, maybe they just don't know better. Maybe sometimes they do, but they can take and take and take from their mother. And the mother has no ability to say no, or I'm not teaching you this lesson, or I am not doing this, or you can't take advantage of me anymore. Especially when it's been going on for so long that the mother ends up with nothing else to give. She's just a shell of herself because she's given everything away to everybody else, especially those that she loves. And I think that's the saddest part, is you think that the people that you love the most would be able to see that they're hurting you, that they're taking too much from you. And they don't always. And I think that's a really important revelation and an important reason to remember to stand up for yourself, because I think it's important to kind of live with that unlimited benefit of the doubt and not assume people are trying to take something from you to hurt you. Usually that's never the case. Usually they're doing it because they assume that if you didn't, that you would say no, or that you have more resources where those came from, or that it wouldn't be too much for you. People are always going to be able to ask you that. It's not their responsibility to read the situation and not ask, right? It's not the child's responsibility to know if, they need something from their mother, that mom has the ability, that has the resource to give them, whether that's time or attention or being there or resources, right? Like the kid may not know and may not have the full picture. It's up to us to speak up for ourselves. And, for me, because I don't have children, although I am a child of two people, and I do always try to be aware of that with my own parents. But I think the place that I can practice that the most in my life, well, I was just going to start making joke honestly, be like, I can practice that everywhere else in my life, because even in my relationship, I need to remember to speak up for myself with Dave. Like, we've had so many moments recently with everything we've been going through with his health stuff where my cup kind of gets drained so easily and I get so resentful so fast. And I become so short with him. And it's because I'm not really speaking up for myself and I'm not really saying what I need, nor am I really practicing giving myself that. Kind of leads me to those moments like yesterday where I end up just crashing and taking a nap and kind of being grumpy and not being communicative. You know, like if I had kind of done this yesterday, I could have said like, hey, I am feeling so tired after that wedding yesterday, and just soaking in the fact that this wedding season has come to a close and it's really hitting me right now. And I could really use a little extra attention today. I might fall asleep. I might be kind of low energy mode, and I'm just going to need you to look out for me. I could have said that. Probably would have, we did fine yesterday, but it probably would have been more honest, right? A little bit more clear. I'm sure he would have appreciated that. And there's lots of moments like that with Dave and I where my default mode is to be the giving tree that gives and gives and gives. It's like, you want my apples? Sure. You want to build a boat out of me? Sure. You want to build a house out of me? Okay. Like you're constantly giving because you just kind of assume that if somebody's going to ask you, that it's your job to give it to them. And it's that really important lesson for all of us, just to remember that just because somebody asks you for something, it does not mean it is your obligation to give it back to them. And I think the whole reason I bring this up right now is because this is a time of year that is known for, starting with this gratitude of Thanksgiving and going into this season of gift giving, and where you'd think that the right reasons would be apparent for everyone. But people may not realize where you're at or what you have to give. Some years you might be able to host a party at your house, have family over, make little special treats for everyone, like make it super, super special. And other years you might be like, I'm running on empty. I barely have time to wash my hair, much less order something for you off Amazon. Like I am not able to do that this year. And so I feel like before you become the giving tree that starts to give and give and give yourself away and say yes to this party and yes to this thing and just goes through the motions, how much better might it be if right now, this afternoon or this right after this episode, you sit down with your piece of paper and you really write, like, what is it I have to give this year? Where's my capacity at right now? Maybe you start to look at certain resources that you have. Maybe you had a really good year financially, and this is the year that you can really buy some nice things for your loved ones. Maybe this is the year where the resource that you have is time. And so you're going to put some more time into decorating a beautiful place for people and your loved ones to come over and enjoy. And dare I say it, maybe this is the year that you speak up about what you really need. Maybe you could use a break from the mental bandwidth that you've been carrying. Maybe you say, hey, I just want you to know, friends, family, like, I love you so much, but I'm running on empty right now. So I don't know if I'm going to have a lot to give. Either, that might mean gifts, that might mean time. I might not be able to show up for the entire Christmas as we usually do, or could we do it like this instead, And maybe this is the year that like other people can give that to you, right? Like that your needs can matter, but you can't expect that or ask that if you're not clear about what that is. And if you're not clear about it, also when people ask you for what they need, not knowing that you're struggling, not knowing that you're kind of figuring it out, that you're going through a lot, or maybe you feel like they should know, but maybe their empathy is just a little low right now. If you're not clear about it, you're more likely to give yourself away and to end up in a position that is creating resentment or creating resistance or just creating more emptiness inside of you. But if you're clear about it right away, you can set those healthy limits, right? Or you can change the course of the conversation, or you can redirect them to somebody who can help them more. And you might just be able to get ahead this season yourself and actually be able to turn some of these special moments into things that are really rejuvenating for your soul, right? Like maybe you join me on Sunday for the gratitude yoga class that we're going to have. Or maybe you check out a gratitude series, you do some meditation. Maybe you are able to really focus on your most inner circle of loved ones, right? Like maybe this is your first Christmas married and you just really want to concentrate on your marriage and setting that foundation for the beginning of your family. No matter what that looks like for you, only you know if you are on that trajectory towards getting your cup filled and feeling like you have stuff to give, or whether you're on that downward slope of being kind of run dry. And this is kind of your message from the universe right now, to put whatever you need to in motion to end up on that high side, because you are so worthy of it. You deserve it. And that's what I'm trying to focus on in my life too. And I'm really excited because each day I get more and more stuff done and kind of closer to that point in this season for me where I'm going to have ultimate time and space to concentrate on myself. And I'm not waiting only until that time to do that. I'm trying to find little bits of that each day leading up to that point so that I'm not in like total shock when I get there, right? I'm trying to take moments right now to watch movies or journal or do yoga or eat really healthy foods. And there are plenty of areas right now where like I'm still in survival mode, and that's okay. We're not going to just, have a full moon and do a full moon ritual and then like poof, everything clicks into place and we have a perfect 6 weeks. There's going to be a give and a take. There's going to be you having to speak up for yourself. There's going to be you having to give yourself. There's going to be all of it, right? You get to pick how you show up, what kind of self-awareness you have. You also can change your mind, right? Like maybe you've already agreed to things that are just bugging you and you can't let it go and you don't want to do it. You get to change your mind. You can say, hey, I know we had discussed this, but actually this is more in line with what I need right now. Doesn't that feel good to be given that permission? I know I love it when I give myself that permission. So anyway, I know I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to repeat myself here. So I feel like hopefully I've made myself plenty clear, shared a bit from within. I think it would be a perfect time to do a card reading, and probably from our Affirmators Love and Relationships deck. So we'll close today by I'm going to pull a card from this deck, just something for us all to think about, maybe something that can inspire us or tie a bow on this conversation. Appreciation. I appreciate the unique ways that other people show their love, rather than compare their ways with my ways. Then, I appreciate myself for maturely putting up with people who just can't seem to show love the normal, obvious, universally accepted way. Good job, both of us. Well, isn't that kind of perfect? Totally, because we didn't touch on it as much, but essentially it goes back to the people that lack a little bit of awareness and that empathy. Sometimes when we don't feel seen or we don't feel taken care of or we're not being asked those questions or people know where we're at, it can feel like we are not loved. Like Or these people can seem like just so crazy and selfish and all these other things. But we're comparing that to how we would do it, comparing them to the kind of way we move through the world, that we usually ask those questions. Like a great example is that whenever Dave is at a wedding, I always make sure that he has a place to park when he gets home, because I know how frustrated I get when I get home and there's not a place to park, because we have a very short driveway and there's guest parking right across from us, but it gets full really fast. So when he's gone, I'm always looking for an open parking spot, and I go move our car there so that he can take the driveway when we get home. And every time I get home from a wedding, there's never a place for me to park, and it makes me so mad. But that is me saying, like, because you don't do what I do, you don't love me. And that's just not true. It's not fair. And I have to come in and realize, like, yeah, he cleaned the kitchen for me because he knows that brings me peace. And so I'm going to miss that if I walk in the door and I'm like, I have no place to park, right? That's just one example of that. But I love that because it's so applicable to this giving conversation. And honestly, if there's anything we can hold on to as we move through all that we're going through, it's just anything that we can appreciate and accepting people for who they are, and even situations for as they are. We always know we're better off for doing that. So, all right, you guys, thanks so much for joining me today. I'll be back next week with a new episode. And until then,